So we are on reading 6. That night during dinner, Fudge hid under the kitchen table. He said, "I'm a doggy. Woof, woof, woof." It was hard to eat with him under the table, pulling on my legs. I waited for my father to say something, but he didn't. Finally, my mother jumped up. "I know," she said. "If Fudgy's a doggy, he wants to eat on the floor, right?" If you ask me, Fudge never even thought about that, but he liked the idea a lot. He barked and nodded his head, so my mother fixed his plate and put it under the table. Then she reached down and petted him, just like he was a real dog. My father said, "Aren't we carrying this a little too far?" My mother didn't answer. Fudge ate 2 bites of his dinner. My mother was satisfied. After a week of having him eat under the table, I felt like we really did have a family dog. So that's the chapter title, The Family Dog. Wow, now we got our answer. After a week of having him eat under the table, I felt like we really did have a family dog. I thought how great it would be if we could trade Fudge for a nice Cocker Spaniel. That would solve all my problems. I'd walk him and I'd feed him and play with him. He could even sleep on the edge of my bed at night. But of course, that was wishful thinking. My brother's here to stay, and there's nothing much I can do about it. Grandma came over with a million ideas about getting Fudge to eat. She tricked him by making milkshakes in a blender, and when Fudge wasn't looking, she threw in an egg. And then she told him if he drank it all up, there'd be a surprise in the bottom of the glass. The first time, he believed her. He finished his milkshake, but all he saw was an empty glass. There wasn't any surprise. Fudge got so mad he threw the glass down and it smashed into little pieces. After that, Grandma left. Remember at the beginning of the book it said, what was his biggest problem? It wasn't his mom. Nope. Wasn't his dad. And he said it was Fudge. We're starting to know why he said that. The next day, my mother dragged Fudge to Dr. Cohn's office. He told her to leave him alone, that Fudge would eat when he got hungry. I reminded my mother that I told her the same thing, and for free. But I guess my mother didn't believe either one of us because she took Fudge to see 3 more doctors. None of them could find a thing wrong with my brother. One doctor even suggested that my mother cooked Fudge his favorite foods. So that night, my mother broiled lamb chops just for Fudge. The rest of us ate stew. She served him the 2 lamb chops on his plate under the table. Just the smell of them was enough to make my stomach growl. I thought it was mean of my mother to make them for Fudge and not for me. Fudge looked at his lamb chops for a few minutes, and then he pushed his plate away. "No," he said, "no chops." "Fudgy, you'll starve," my mother cried. You must eat." "No chops? Cornflakes," Fudge said. "Want cornflakes." My mother ran to get the cereal for Fudge. "You can eat the chops if you want them, Peter," she told me. I reached down and helped myself to the lamb chops. My mother handed Fudge his bowl of cereal, but he didn't eat it. He sat at my feet and looked up at me. He watched me eat his chops. "Eat your cereal," my father said. No, eat cereal," Fudge yelled. My father was really mad. His face turned bright red. He said, "Fudge, you will eat that cereal or you will wear this." And this was turning out to be fun after all, I thought. And the lamb chops were really tasty. I dipped the bone into some ketchup and chewed away. Fudge messed around with his cereal for a minute, and then he looked at my father and said, "No eat, no eat, no eat." My father wiped his mouth with his napkin, pushed back his chair, and got up from the table. He picked up the bowl of cereal in one hand and Fudge in the other, and he carried them both into the bathroom. Ooh, any thoughts now? I went along, nibbling on a bone, to see what was going to happen. My father stood Fudge in the tub and dumped the whole bowl of cereal right over his head. Fudge screamed. He sure can scream loud. My father motioned for me to go back to the kitchen, and he joined us in a minute, and we sat down and finished our dinner. Fudge kept on screaming. My mother wanted to go to him, but my father told her to stay where she was. He had had enough of Fudge's monkey business at mealtimes. I think my mother was relieved that my father had taken over. For once, my brother got what he deserved, and I was glad. The next day, Fudge sat at the table again, in his little red booster chair, where he belongs, and he ate everything his mother put in front of him. No more doggy, he told us, and for a long time, that was his favorite expression, was eat it or wear it. Funny. That is the end of this reading. That's also the end of chapter 3, which was called The Family Dog. Shoot, I was hoping they'd have a real dog because you know I like dogs, but no such luck. Make sure you write in your Google Doc, like always, and we'll talk about them later. Fill in the summary, a good summary, your questions, predictions, feelings, and thoughts. If you don't have any, then you want to listen to the video again, because that's what listening is.